Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita session. For the pleasure of Radha Govind and all the devotees, I'm going to be playing a short kirtan. Raje prasidham Vangananam Pradhukolatvaram Aneka Janma Jitapatachoram Shilajitaya Hridayasya Choram Navamudasyamalakamitoram Tadashritanam Prasamstachoram Choragraganyam Purusham Akinchanikritya Padakrutam Yah Karoti Vikshim Patije Mahina Tenapyamohi Shanatavahini Vishtashvito Vama Jaliprayeti Yadiyanama Viharatya Shesham Giriprasharanapi Paparashim Ashcharyarupo Nanuchaura Igrim Drishtashvito Manamaya Tadapi Dhanam Chananam Chakathendriyani Pranam Swaruptamanam Sarvam Deva Valayasya Putra Vrittabhachora Brahmati Brahma Simaya Nirodha Chinnatchi Soram Yamapashabandham Vinnatchi Bhimam Bhava Pashabandham Chinnatchi Sarvasya Samasta Bandham Naivapuno Raje prasitham Namanita Chora Chora Raje prasitham Namanita Chora Gopanganam Chadutina Chora Anika Janma Vitavapa Chora Choragraganyam Purusham Choragraganyam Purusham Karagrahe vasasada Hridaye Madhiye Madbhakti Pasha Vrida Bandhanishchalasam Ram Krishna He Pralayakoti Shatantarepi Sarvasva Chora Hridayam Namuchayami Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Shri Hari Naam Sankirtan ki Jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Shri Chaurashtakam ki Jai Shri Bilva Mangal Thakur ki Jai Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki Jai Nitai Gaur
Hare Krishna, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you.
We can.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen now, then we'll start.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, can anyone please confirm? Because today I'm not using a secondary monitor. Just want to know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
We are
Prabhuji.
able to see your screen, Prabhuji.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we have a number which is 123. I think we'll offer our prayers to our acharyas and then to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then we'll take their blessings, and then we'll start the session. Yeah. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै
Your screen is getting frozen, Prabhuji.
श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः
स्वयं रूपः कदा मायं ददाति स्वान्तम्
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुश्रीयुतपादकमलं
श्रीयुतापदकमलं
श्रीगुरुं
वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं
श्रीरूपं सम्राजातं
रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं
सहजीवं
साद्वैतं
सदा वैतं सदा
सावधूतं
युतं
परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते
श्रीमती भगवते
भक्तिवेदान्त नाम
स्वामिनाम इति नमे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री आदित्य गदाधरा
आदि
शिवसदि गौर
गौर
भक्त वृंदा
कृष्णा हरे
हरे
कृष्णा
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
हरे
कृष्णा हरे
कृष्ण
हरे
हरे हरे
हरे राम
हरे
हरे राम
हरे राम
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 हरे
हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा
हरे
कृष्णा
कृष्ण कृष्ण
हरे हरे
हरे हरे
हरे राम
हरे राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा
हरे
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
कृष्णा हरे हरे
हरे
हरे
Hare
राम
Ram, Hare Ram,
हरे राम
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 हरे
हरे हरे
Hare
जय श्री कृष्ण
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Once again. So, okay. So,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Prabhuji, can we post mute all?
yes, yes, we will do that. So, I see someone is chanting along with, and they are listening as well. While it is good, whoever is chanting, I hope we will focus on the session as well. In case we are focusing on the session, please don't do chanting. Thank you so much. Okay. So today we'll get into our eighth chapter, which is knowing more sweetness and greatness about the Lord, and then we will see how to attain the supreme, how to attaining the supreme personality of Godhead. What do we do? How do we do? It's all about bhakti, the purest of the bhakti, which we will learn, right? And this particular chapter is also called as Akshara Brahma Yoga, Kshara and Akshara, right? So we will see all these terms as well. And this is based on the book, which is based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who's the founder, Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Okay, moving forward. So we see that this is what we have our journey so far, which is the first chapter. We began with faith, observing the army. Then, in case anyone has missed, and if they have joined today as the first session, no problem. You will still be able to pick up from here and there. We are again reiterating the basics a bit. So don't worry in case you miss out on it. We have our recordings as well, which we posted, and I'm sure most of you would have taken what you call the offerings of today's chanting of the verses, the 700 verses which we had in the morning because of the Ekadashi. In case you missed out, don't worry, we will be having such sessions as well. And in fact, there is another session based on the request. I remember one of our Matajis have asked about, are there any prarthanas or prayers or kirtans where we can learn from, or where we can get access to? Today there was a first such session which we posted. Our admin team has already posted in our groups. I think it was at 4 to 5 p.m. I'm sure some of would have taken the advantage of that. In case you missed out, don't worry. We will keep communicating from time to time. That was one sort of a session which took place today. Right. So coming back to the topics, or coming back to the chapter summary of the first 7 days, what we started off with the faith, right? And then with the faith, with ultimate faith, we wanted to learn about Bhagavad Gita. That's exactly what Arjuna also did with complete faith. He entered into the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's where I started observing the army. There were signs of victory. Then there was a lot of compassion, lamentation, and so on and so forth. With his arguments, he cast aside his bow. He did not want to fight. Then we entered into chapter 2. That's where he surrendered to Lord. From a friend, he became a disciple of the Lord, Sri Krishna. And then Krishna became a guru at that point of time, where Krishna gave him the gyan about the body and the soul, right? And he explained a lot of topics in terms of how the soul is eternal. We learned about Najayate Mriyate Vakadachin, the soul can never be cut into pieces, indestructible. How individual soul is also called as Brahman. We will learn more about all those things. And we also saw how to control the mind and the senses in the second chapter itself, and how a self-realized soul, who's also called as a Sthita Prajna, and who's steady, will be able to control how does he speak, how does he walk, how does he talk. We also saw all that, and how one will be able to renounce from the activity or the actions. Then we entered into Karma Yoga section. We got to know about what is karma yoga. Then we learned about the ladders, the various yoga ladders, starting from the animalistic kingdom. Then there are two types of karma yogas, which is a sakama karma and the nishkama karma. For people who are wondering and who would have joined, what am I talking about? Any activity that we do is called as karma. Karma will have certain reactions, either a positive reaction or a negative reaction. We will learn that. It is a material consciousness one takes to do an activity is called as karma, to be very precise. We will learn that. So you will incur either a positive activity or a negative activity. Based on that, your next body is being prepared. So we also saw all sorts of yoga ladders, starting from karma yoga, sakama karma, nishkama karma, so on and so forth. And then we saw something called as a jnana yoga, and then we saw Ashtanga yoga, and then the Bhakti yoga as well. Then we saw what is action, what is inaction, right? And we also saw what is renunciation. Then we moved on to certain questions where Krishna had questions, sorry, Arjuna had questions, and then we moved on to the chapter 4, where Krishna tried to explain and glorified the jnana as well as the process of transcendental knowledge. He gave the entire information of knowing him. We started off with how the parampara started off, evam parampara praptim, how it was lost, the disciplic succession, how the four sampradayas come into picture, where Lord Krishna himself gave the instruction about the Gita, and then the Gita was again spoken in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. We saw all that. And then we saw the importance of how one would surrender to a guru, pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, right? Humbly surrender and then ask for your questions to a guru. Sorry about that. So with that, again, he had a confusion. Should I act or should I renounce? Oh, Krishna, please tell me which one is better. Then we moved on to the fifth one, which is karma yoga in Krishna consciousness. He asked, then he said, working in devotion is better or renunciation of work is better? Please tell me. We spoke about Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya. right? For people who are wondering about what is these two terms, don't worry. Falgu Vairagya is the so-called Markata Vairagya, or the what you call somebody who has renounced just like that, who has not completely renounced. We also saw the terms called as pretender or a mithyachari in the process. Right. Then we saw mind, a enemy or a friend, right? Because we saw Chanchalam Himana Krishna, right? How the mind is so flickery, how it's so constant, because we have many desires, lusty, intense desires, and we saw how lust is the greatest enemy, right? And then we moved on with the topics of Ashtanga Yoga. We also learned about where are the places that lust sits. It sits in the mind intelligence apart from the senses. In the process, we learned the body of the chariot, how the senses can be controlled by the mind using our intelligence as well. Right. We also learned about Ashtanga Yoga, what happens to a greatest yogi, or what happens to a yogi who takes the path of Ashtanga Yoga, and how they will reach the Brahman stage. And then we also saw if someone is success, where will they go? They'll go to the heavenly planets for a shorter period. And if they fail, what would happen? They will come back and take birth in an aristocratic family. That was the one we saw. And then we saw the greatest of the yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana, right? Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. So this particular greatest yogi, the best of the yogis, Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. And today we will see the pure consciousness of the same person, and we will see about pure bhakti, pure bhakti. It's all about bhakti we're going to learn today. And yesterday also we saw where hearing from him, why hearing is so important. We said all our ears to be open first. Shravanam, from the 9 devotional process, first is Shravanam. Always Shravanam, 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 right? That's how it is so powerful that we have to hear. And how do we, after hearing, how do we understand that he's the supreme personality of Godhead? Because we can see him everywhere. Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu. We saw the 5 elements our body is made up of: Pancha Mahabhuta, earth, air. I hope we remember. Should we engage a conversation? Okay, let me try to unmute. I hope we remember what is a Pancha Mahabhuta.
Ether, air,
Earth, water, fire, ether,
Perfect.
Air.
and air.
Perfect. Perfect. And what are the subtle?
Agni.
Yes. So
Agni.
perfect. So these are the gross elements. What are the subtle elements we learned yesterday?
Mind, intelligence,
Mind, intelligence, false
false
ego.
ego. False ego.
Perfect. Apart from that, we also
False ego.
learned that these senses will take into something called as a working senses. What are working senses? With our eyes, we'll be able to
See,
see. With our nose, we'll be able to smell.
breathe.
Smell.
Yes. So like that, Sabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. So
9.
yeah. So
Five,
these
five.
Yeah, 9.
these objects, and so these became 5 plus 5, 10, plus
10.
3 subtle, it became 13. Like that, we have working senses like hands, legs, anus, genitals, and all that. So 13 plus 5, it became 18. Then we saw
18.
the entire 23 elements becoming as the Mahatattva, right? We also learned about the little bit of a creation. Who are the 3 Mahavishnus we learned yesterday? Can anyone?
Paramatma, Bhagavan,
Shirok Dakshai Vishnu, Garbho Dakshai Vishnu,
Vishnu,
Perfect.
Prabhuji,
Karano Dakshai Vishnu.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Mataji.
I wanted to know the 23. I could not get all the 23. I got that 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and ether. Then 5 senses,
Mm-hmm.
and then our working
Then 5
parts,
working
hands.
senses, then 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So this became 20 plus, then these
Knowledge acquiring are what?
knowledge acquiring senses are, these are the ones, eyes and all. What I'll do is, Mataji, after this session, I'll make a note of it. I'll share that particular screenshot. And don't worry, we will again discuss these in depth on the 13th chapter, because all these elements will be discussed on that particular.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So because I gave a
Correct.
glimpse of it, that's the reason I was trying to ask. Yes, we were talking about the three Mahavishnu, who are the Vishnus who emerged. Who's the first Vishnu? Who take care of all the universes?
Karanodakshai Vishnu.
Karanodakshai Vishnu, who's also called as a Mahavishnu, right? From
Mahavishnu.
and then the next
Gandharva Vishnu.
Kshirodakshai Vishnu.
Garbhodakshay Vishnu, second
Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Vishnu, who will be sitting on the garbha of the anda. Of the anda, what happens is from his body, everything he will perspire, he will sweat and sweat and sweat. The entire anda will be completely or half filled with his sweat, and he'll be sitting on the hood of the Ananta Shesha with the limitless or the countless of the Ananta Shesha. That's where he'll be sitting on the hood. And from his nabhi, Pankaja nabhi, that's where Brahma is
Brahma.
Brahmaji's form. And what is the position of Kshirodakshai Vishnu? What does it say?
The milk of ocean. He will be
Paramatma
lying.
enters into every atom and maintain our super soul.
Yes, he maintains our super souls by entering into every atom. So who's there in our body within us right now?
Paramatma.
Paramatma, who's nothing but the Kshirodakshai.
Kshirodakshai Vishnu.
Yeah, Kshirodaksh.
Yes. And then we, from day 2 onwards, we learned the three forms of realizations which we have. What are the three forms of realizations that we have with the Lord?
Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan.
Perfect.
Bhagwan.
And which is the complete realization?
Bhagwan.
No,
Bhagwan is the complete
Bhagwan.
and Brahman and the Paramatma are the partial realization.
Partial.
Perfect. So we will see all those concepts today. And yesterday we saw in depth of where he talks about saying, please hear from me, seeing from me and hearing from me. You will understand and learn more from me. Bhumi Rapo Nala Vayu. We saw almost everything yesterday. And then we saw that he is the taste of the water, he's the fire, the digestive fire within us, he's the air, the punya, the fragrance, the smell, capability,
Sound,
Everything.
yes. Perfect. Then yesterday we also saw there are 4 types of people who accept and the 4 types of people who reject the Lord, right? I hope you remember. Mudha,
Mudha, Naradhama.
yes, Maya Aparata was deluded.
Or Asur Bhavam. Asuram.
Asurim Bhava. Perfect. And then we saw there are 4 kind of people who accept the Lord. This is something.
Distress one.
Arti.
Those who are seeking wealth.
Very good.
Yani.
Thank you so much.
Jikyasu.
Perfect. And finally, we saw who's the best of the men among all of them.
Jnani.
The Jnani is the best of the men, but more than the Jnani, who's the much more ultimate best?
Jigyasu.
Always engaged in pure devotion.
Yes, the one who is always engaged in pure devotion. He's the one, rather than all these people, the one who is always engaged in pure devotion is the best of them. Perfect. With that information, we will now move on to the next slide, where we will start with our chapter. Okay, with your
Guruji, sorry to interrupt. Even I want the split ups for those elements.
Yes,
if you can.
I think Mon, maybe you can share it while. Okay, we will share it in the chat while we are talking. All the 23 elements. We'll take a screenshot and share it in our WhatsApp chat if that's okay with all of you people.
Sure.
Okay. So with your permission, I will again mute you all. And what I'm going to do is I will leave the chat open in case it's not a disturbance to you people. In case there are questions in between you can raise your questions. Where is the chat? Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay, so what are we going to learn today? It's all about attaining the supreme. How do we attain the supreme? This particular what you call chapter, the acronym that was given by one of our senior devotees or one of our devotees, the Sutapadas, is DEAD, DEAD. While it doesn't sound that great because no one wants to know about dead. While we are alive, why are we even talking about dead? When death comes into picture, we will think about it, but we will try to understand how death is so important or a concept as such today. We will see that. Right. So again, as usual, Arjuna is so humble and is so helpful to us. He asks with his doubts again, with his questions, and then we will get into the second section, which we will talk about at the end of the life, what one has to do before the end of the life, and how does one attain the supreme. How is it easy to attain the supreme? We will see that, and then we will see what's about devotion, right? Because this particular chapter is the purest of like bhakti. Okay, I see some participants have raised, and I don't know what is that for. Yes, Mataji.
I can't see you now. Since you enabled the chat, I think we are not able to see you. Yes,
Okay,
now I can.
okay. Sorry about that,
Thank
Mataji. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so Arjuna, as usual, he asks with these questions again in the first three verses. What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adhibhuta? What is Adidaiva? What is Adi Yajna? And where, whoever he is, where does he preside? And who is that person? Where does he preside? Please tell me. And the last question which he asks, how can those engaged in devotional service know Krishna at the time of the death? How will that help? I think most of you, if I just open up or unmute you, I'm sure most of you will be able to help or answer to these questions. At least we discussed all of them here and there, bits and pieces. Let's try to understand what is Brahman. Does anyone want to guess what is Brahman? Let me unmute and have a discussion.
The
Any
Brahma
idea?
Jyoti.
Brahman is the Brahma Jyoti. Okay, that's what we know. What else?
Soul, Atma.
Yes, soul. This our soul. We as a living entity is also called as Brahman. Brahma. We are called as Brahma. We are called as Brahman. We are called as the living entity, soul, everything, all these things. Okay, Adhyatma. What is Adhyatma? Okay, I'll park that. What is Karma? I'm sure we all know.
Actions.
The actions with our material consciousness, whatever actions that we do, that is called as karma. What is Adi Bhuta? Do you want to give a guess?
Atmosphere.
Yeah, our body,
Yes, that
which made up of five, this
Mahabhuta. Perfect.
Agni, Vayu, Jal,
Yes, our body and the soul mixed with the
soul,
Prakriti, that is called as Adi Bhuta. Adi Daiva.
Adibhuta, Adidaiva,
Okay, no problem. We
Shiva.
will pass that. Sorry?
Divine.
Shiva, Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva is Adi Daiva. Maybe we will see that. Okay. Who is Adi Yajna?
Adidaiva is Supreme God Krishna.
Adidaiva is Supreme God Krishna. Correct. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Who is Adi Yajna? We already learned this. The cycle of sacrifices. I'm giving you a hint. We learned that in the 4th chapter. Cycle of sacrifices. Remember? We pray and then the rain.
The one who enjoys the benefit of the yajna,
Who's that?
the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
Everything goes to him.
Sarvaloka.
Yes.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
whatever.
Bhoktaram.
Bhaktaram Yajna Tapasam.
Perfect. Perfect. Right. So whoever he is, where does he preside? Where is he?
He is in our Atman.
Atom. Everywhere.
Very good. He is in every atom as a Paramatma,
Everywhere.
as a super soul. Excellent. So I think you people already know this. I'm so blessed and lucky. Okay. So moving on, I have again muted you people. So we will see all these once again slowly. So Brahman is the indestructible soul. Why we are calling indestructible soul? Because our soul is always eternal, right? It cannot be. Nainam chindanti shastrani. It cannot be destroyed. Then Adhyatma, the soul's nature, right? Adhyatma is our soul. with the living entity, and then our living entity, what is the constitution of the soul? The constitution of the soul is always to serve the Lord, serve the Lord. Never forget this. Okay, karma, the reactions that force the soul to take the material body, the material consciousness. With the material consciousness, whatever reactions that we do, and it's forcing our soul to take the material body, that is called as karma. There is no, that's the reason why we our acharyas has given the definition in such a way. Is there a karma in the spiritual world? There is no karma in the spiritual world. It applies only to the material world. Adibhuta, material nature or the prakriti, which includes the creation, the maintenance, and the annihilation. Adi Devata, the universal form of the Lord, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, as you rightly explained. Adi Yajna, Krishna as the super soul of all sacrifices. We already saw that where Yajna Hai Vishnu, we do all that. For any Yajna that we start with Vishnu, right? Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, we already saw that in the 5th chapter as well. Now, the last 7th question, where does he preside? He presides in everyone's heart as Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, as a Paramatma. He resides in every living entity as Shirodakshaya Vishnu, because Shirodakshaya Vishnu is the one who's responsible to take care of every living entity within the universe. Okay, this is what is Brahman, much more elaborated explanation. I thought we will put in some more elaborated explanation so that you will understand here. This is the Brahman which we are talking about when we talk in terms of the realizations. Remember, Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and the Bhagavan realization, right? We in the Gaudiya Parampara, we don't stop here. We want to know with the God. We want to connect with the Lord. We want to go back to Godhead. That is what our goal or aim is, and so that the Lord reciprocates with us. That's the reason we have phrased it. Look at how Srila Prabhupada has given the definition. Brahman is the indestructible and eternally existing and refers to the living entity. But beyond Brahman, there is something called as Parabrahman, which refers to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. Moving on, Adhyatma, which includes the soul, the body, the mind of all the living beings. Body will be dead, but the soul is always eternal. You look at it, how we pass from one species to another and all that. We take up a body of so many species, 84 lakh species. Okay, what is karma? Karma is a material consciousness, the jiva's nature to lord over. What is lord over? I want to rule everything, material nature. That's how we end up with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, the cycle of it. That is called as karma, which we do not want to get into the cycle. That is our entire aim of at least to understand the essence in this 18 days, right? Now, what is Adibhuta? We already discussed about this some way or the other. I have already explained it. Ever-changing material manifestation. The physical nature is constantly changing. Material bodies generally pass through 6 stages. We pass through the 6 stages. We already discussed it. What are the stages? We birth. First we are born, then we grow after some time. After we grow, then we are maintained. Then we produce some byproducts. Then we dwindle. Finally, with whatever disease or whatever, finally we will vanish into the oblivion. Then we're going to die. This is what the physical nature is called Adibhuta, right? This is called as Adibhuta. Now, why does this happen? Because we are in the Dukhalayam, or the so-called jail, which is we are going through this particular punishment. Each one of us are going through this punishment because we are in the material world. I hope you people still remember the word conditioned soul. If you don't remember, please remember conditioned. How are we conditioned? We are conditioned with the three modes of material nature, which is Prakriti or Mahamaya, right? 3 modes of material nature, which is Prakriti or Mahamaya. We will learn in depth about Prakriti and Mahamaya in 13th, 14th, 15th chapters. Okay, so now that we learned about all these things, then we also learned about Adi again, so-called, so forth. How can we attain a spiritual destination at the time of the death? I hope we all remember this particular picture which I pasted here. This was during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Bhishma, right? Bhishma was with the arrows, and he was always thinking about the Lord. In fact, he wanted to see one of the main rasas of the Lord, right? Now, what do I mean by that? So he was already a greatest of the devotee with the Lord, right? He knows who's the supreme personality of Lord. He's a greatest devotee. Then one might wonder, oh, wait a minute, if you're saying he was the greatest devotee of the Lord, why was he with the Kauravas? He was doing his uh, dharma, he was doing his prescribed duty, and he was bound with many what he called entanglements. For him also, it was prakriti was entangled in whatever mohamaya, right? And then what happened at the end? Finally, he wanted to see one of the rasas. He wanted to experience the rasas with the Lord. That's where he wanted to. He made the Lord furious. That's where Lord picked up the wheel of the chariot, and he knows that, and he was in ecstasy when, as and when he saw that rasa. That is what the rasa he was looking to experience, right? So all the time, what I was trying to explain here in this, from this picture, is what he always he thought about the Lord, and finally he left his body always thinking about the Lord. At the time of death also, he was always thinking about the Lord. So moving on to the next section, end of life. Do you want to talk about Bhishma? No. Okay. So hearing is important, right? We established this yesterday as well. The first verse talks about hear me, tachruno, right? Hearing is important. And we also spoke about how Srimad Bhagavatam, the importance of hearing is mentioned. Shrinavatam Swakatha Krishna, every time. Punya Shravana Kirtanam. Okay, so hearing is important, but practical application is the most important. Only then will it be possible to remember the Lord constantly, right? Yesterday also we were discussing, there were question and answer sessions for how long we have to chant. How long can you chant? Please take out your time somewhere or the other, wherever there is a free time. How, no matter whatever free time you people have, take out some time or the other, just like the way you are spending your very valuable time right now in understanding spiritual concepts and trying to the Lord. Take out some time or the other and chant. Chanting is the only way out, where our acharyas has put forth, and thinking about the Lord. That's the only way. We will see how that is very important today, and how it is very tough, that no matter how much ever we are in bhakti, we will still falter at the end of our life. If you're thinking, why we even thinking about the death, Prabhu, it's very far. Why we are not interested in knowing the climax of our life? We are very happy right now, but we will understand how it is very important. Why smaranam, kirtanam, shravanam, why is it mentioned in the scriptures? That is very important. It will not come out from our mouth. It's not easy to think about the Lord at the time of death. That's why hearing, chanting, and remembering Lord, smaranam, is the key. Okay, moving on. Remembering Krishna at the time of death. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti yatra samshayah. And whoever at the end of his life, quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. No matter what, if he thinks about me, once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt at all, right? So we see in the picture, we see the story of Ajamila, right? I hope most of you might be aware of Ajamila. In case you are not aware of Ajamila, Ajamila was the greatest devotee of the Lord, right? He was the greatest devotee of the Lord. But however, once when he was in his prayers, he saw there was a maid servant and there was a couple. They were engaging in their bodily activities, and because that part of the consciousness, or that part of the what you call little bit of dirt was there still in his soul or in his consciousness, it that's what it ignited within him. And all of a sudden he fell into a relation with one of his maid servant. He forgot his family, he's forgot his kids. Almost at the old age, he got into a relation while he was in complete devotion with the Lord, right? And look at him, what has happened at the time of his deathbed, right? He was not thinking about the Lord, but because he called up Narayana. How did he even call Narayana? Sorry, you can't see. Okay, so how did he even call Narayana? So he uttered the word as Narayana. Narayana was the name of his son, right? Luckily, he's called Narayana. When he was almost going to die, the Yamadutas came to pick him up because it was their turn. However, as and when he called Narayana, it was the turn of the Vishnu Dutas who came running, right? They were like, how can you even take my devotee? Right? How can they even take my devotee? That's exactly how the Vishnu Dutas fought with the Yamadutas, and that's exactly how he got a second chance, where he went back to an ashram and then again he started his entire session of everything, his devotion or a bhakti. That's exactly how he was able to go back to Godhead. So did you see how Lord chose him to give a second chance, depending on what his actions were? And it is not easy. And he did not think about the Lord, rather he called his son as Narayana. Moving on. So on what basis does a soul gets a second chance? Let's try to understand. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam त्यजते ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Whatever state of being one remembers, right? Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail, right? So in this particular series we saw where he was involved with one of the prostitutes here, right? Ajamila was involved with one of the he got into relationship with one of the prostitutes. And then here we're going to see what would happen. We already discussed about the story, right? But still we will discuss a little bit about the same story once again. Bharat Maharaj was one of the greatest ruler of the Bharat, right? The Bharatavarsha, the entire world. He was ruling the entire world. Then finally, after all his prescribed duties, what did he do? He what he call? He renounced. He's renounced his life. So how did he renounce his life? We saw this particular picture yesterday or day before yesterday. We discussed about this. Yes, yeah, we discussed about this. So when he was doing his prayers in the forest, he saw a foal or a deer who was pregnant, and the pregnant deer came running towards the pond or towards the river where he was doing his prayers or taking his bath, went to take his bath to do his prayers. So what happened, as and when the deer heard a sound of a nearby lion or a tiger, it was so scared, delivered the baby, and then it died, right? So then we also learn the story. Bharat Maharaj was too attached with the deer. Apart from just taking care of the deer, he was too attached. Months passed by, and then he stopped. He forgot his devotion with the Lord, right? Who was always used to think. There are 9 stages in Bhakti Lata Bija. What do I mean by Bhakti Lata Bija? One starts with what we call Sangha, and then almost he goes to the stage of Bhava. He will think about the Lord, right? Always he'll be in the state of bhava about the Lord. So Bharat Maharaj was almost in that stage. However, he was too attached or compassionate with the deer. So one day, what happened? After some months passed by, on one particular day, the deer did not return to the ashram. So he was so worried, and he went in search of the deer. He went in search of the deer, and it was almost a dark evening and then dark night. And from a cliff, he just fell. If you see here, the third picture, I don't know if it is big enough to see. So in the third picture, when when he fell from the cliff, he was almost thinking about the deer. So what happened? The next birth, he took birth as a deer. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaran. Right? So he took birth as a deer. So when he took birth as a deer, he was so lucky. Lord arranged him in such a way that he remembered everything. So he was born what you call near the Gurukul and the ashrams. So he was eating the remnants of the prasadam. He was listening to the glories of the Lord and so on and so forth. Finally, in the next birth, he was born as Jada Bharat, and that's how he was able to go back to Godhead. So, how to remember Krishna? It's not that easy. Practice sadhana throughout our life. It's not one round, it's not two rounds, it's not three rounds. How many can you do is the question. Okay, so in case you people have not started chanting, please start chanting. Right, initially you might feel, oh no, it's so tough. Yes, it is very tough, because we will not be able to focus. In fact, we were very happy when we saw yesterday some Matajis, I don't remember, Shriya or somebody. Yeah, so Sai Mataji and all, everyone has started chanting and they are able to focus and concentrate. It's not that easy. So don't worry if you're still not able to connect with the Lord or think about the Lord. At least take some name, start chanting, start chanting. That's the essence and that's the key. Practice sadhana throughout our life and live a pure life. How do we live a pure life? Wake up in the morning, right? Wake up in the morning, ensure that we take care of our health as well, right? Eat proper diet, follow the ABCD formula. What is the ABCD formula? Association. B for reading books and shastras, C for chanting, 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 and D for diet and devotion, right? These are the ABCD formulas which we simply follow. Let's move on. So what would happen? I don't know if this picture is good enough or not. So what would happen if we are thinking about woman at the end of the time? What would happen? Or we will be born as a tree, right? And if you are just eating non-veg and if you are just getting into killing and all, we will born take like an animalistic life, right? If you're lazy in the mode of ignorance, you'll be born as a polar bear, right? And if you are crazy of eating, definitely you'll be born as a pig. So all this information is given. It's not I'm telling, it's all Krishna. Krishna has given this information in our Bhagavatam. Every information it's given in the Bhagavatam as well. If you're angry, what would happen? Lust, greed, and anger. So envious. The envious, lust, greed, anger, envious, everything has to be curtailed. Arjuna started thinking it's better for me is to quit the world. Once again, he started thinking it's better for me to quit this world. He's trying to help us so that Krishna gives elaborative information and he helps souls like us. Let's see what happens next. Always think of me. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mai arpita mano buddhir mame vaishashya samshayah. Mam anusmara yudhya cha. Think of me, always think of me while you're fighting. That way, when you're fighting, you're not incurring the sins, right? Remember, we have been talking about keep Krishna in the center. What do we mean by keeping Krishna in the center? Keeping Krishna in the center of all the activities that we are doing. While you're doing, you have to think of it. Yesterday, one of our Matajis, Dr. Geeta, was asking, from childhood, we have been conditioned, Prabhu and Mataji, of praying to different demigods. Correct, we have been. Yes, we can pray to the same demigod. Oh God, show me a path as to how I can serve Krishna just like the way you are serving, right? How do I pray him? Always think, I'm doing this particular activity. Oh Lord, I'm doing this activity and I'm thinking about you. I'm doing this activity because of this reasons. I'm cooking food. Oh Lord, I'm cooking food so that I don't know what you would like to eat, but I feel this is what you might love to eat, and this is what I'm cooking for you, right? Some Matajis ask, Prabhu, how do we even make sure that we are whatever we are cooking today, it's not according to our tastes and gratification? Because we want, let's say today we want bhindi, right? Or tomorrow we want what brinjal. How is that it's not our tastes? So, simply what Prabhupada used to say, do one thing, just make a schedule what you would want to cook. Monday this, Tuesday this, Wednesday this. That way, you are not forcing, or you are not telling, or you are not thinking that you're gratifying your senses, but you're cooking for the Lord. There is already a schedule that is there, right? So therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me. You will attain me without doubt. Asamshayam, without any doubts, you will be able to attain me. Always think of me. There you go. Srila Prabhupada, one of the greatest soul, divine soul, always used to think of the Lord and always used to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? So that's exactly why we asked the other day. I was asking, what is the time when we were talking to Hari Prabhuji? We were saying, what is the right time to start devotional service? Is it after 60s or is it after 40s, 50s? Now we are grown old. Now it's the time to pick up or connect with the Lord. No, before the birth itself, right? Those days in the previous yugas, before before the conception used to happen between a man and a woman, between a couple, they used to do certain yajnas, right? Now you might ask, now Prabhuji, we just discussed the other day, we are not supposed to do in the age of Kali Yuga, we are not supposed to do yajnas, or we are not supposed to do any of these homas, or we are not supposed to do shraddhas. We still continue to do. Why are we so elevated and are we so pure soul? These all applies to the pure devotees whose pure consciousness has elevated. So what do we do while we are still in Krishna consciousness and doing bhakti? You can still do yajnas and whatever you would want to do through the help of a Vaishnava and a true devotee. The reason why we are saying don't do yajnas and all those homas or whatever is because we don't know the consciousness of a person who's doing it, which is not good. But if you are getting involved of a person who is a Krishna conscious devotee and getting things done, that is not an issue at all, because we are not that elevated souls. If you think that you are the purest of the soul, you can stop it. We don't have to. It doesn't apply to us, as we mentioned the other day. So Krishna consciousness should start right before conception, right before the baby is born, from the time the baby is born in the womb itself, just like Parikshit Maharaj, right? So moving on, practice bhakti. So we see this particular chapter is about pure bhakti, pure bhakti. This is one more important verse. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthana chintayan. He who meditates upon me, always, he who meditates on me as the supreme personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me no matter what, whatever activity or prescribed duty the person is doing, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So there are two words which we are learning again and again, right? Here we saw Anusmara, Mam Anusmara, always think of me, Mam Anusmara. And here we are talking about Abhyasa, Abhyasa Yoga, Abhyasa Yoga. Yesterday also we learned Yogam Yunjam, always practice, Abhyasa, right? Okay, let's see about this particular story. I'm sure you would have known about the story about Valmiki and what was his previous birth. In case we have not, do you want to share this?
Yeah. So actually, if you see the picture over here, we have Ratnakara on the right side. And about 1000 years ago, there was a hunter who was living by robbing people. And all he was doing is he was living in a jungle, and he was living in a jungle with his wife and children. And no traveler could pass in this particular place. And any traveler who passes over here, he would be killed and he would be stolen for any will that he used to have. And one day, while Narada Muni, he can travel any places, right? So one day Narada Muni was traveling places and he happened to pass by this place. And as usual, This hunter used to look for victims who are actually used to look for victims whoever is coming passing by over here. And Narad Muni was happily singing and walking by, and we had this person who was like thinking, oh, this person looks very rich and nice, I think I'll get a lot of things to steal. And he threatened him saying, oh, give me whatever you possess, give it to me, and if you don't give it to me, I will kill you. And Narad Muni obviously he's the son of the creator Brahmaji himself, and because he's a creator, because he was not so afraid of him, he said, why do you want to kill me anyway? What did I do and what harm have I done to you? Then he said, no, it's not like you've done any harm to me, but I just want to kill you because I just want to take away whatever you have, and if you don't give it to me, I'll definitely kill you. Then he went then Narada Muni asked, okay, if you do want to kill me, what will you do with all this money? He said, I need to take care of my wife and my children, and all the stories he went on. Then Narada Muni asked, okay, then do one thing. You have your wife and children who you're getting all this money for. Go back to your home and ask your wife and children and request them if they can take away all the sins that you're committing. So he went back home and he asked, um, you know, I was just thinking, I have committed a lot of sins. Do let me know if you can take. And also I've been earning all this money only by robbing people, and now I came to a place where I understood that because I'm robbing and because I'm doing a lot of killing, I'm also committing a lot of sins. So I thought I will share all my sins that I'm committing all this time. So his wife and children were immediately rejecting that. No way, we cannot take away all the sins. And however you have earned money, and however you have done, that's something that you should be looking out for. But we didn't do any of those things, and we didn't even commit any of these things, and they were reluctant on sharing it. Then immediately the Ratnakara ran back to Narada Muni, and he said, oh my god, I didn't know that I would be doing all of this. Then he was taken aback that nobody was ready to take all his sins. And finally when he asked Narada Muni, he said, yes, this is the condition of life, that nobody will be ready to take your sins. So that's why what I could do is I will. And he was ready to, he was immediately ready to wash away all his sins, and he surrendered to Narada Muni. And when he did that, he said, okay, what I can do is I will give you one mantra. You will have to chant that mantra all the times. And once you start chanting, you may not be able to chant continuously, but try to chant so that you will be, whatever sins you have committed can be washed away. Then he agreed to that. And because he had committed a lot of sins his whole life, and he had been always talking something bad and harsh and unkind words, he tried to utter, and the mantra that Narada Muni had given is Rama, but he could never utter the word Rama. Rather, it was with a great difficulty he could utter Mara. So Mara means actually killing people. So at least he could utter the word Mara, and he was happy that he was able to at least utter the word Mara, and he started chanting Mara, 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 Mara. And finally, at one point of time, when he was chanting Mara, 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 it so happened that it turned into Rama, 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 Rama. And he himself could not realize it, that while doing this kind of a practice, he could change his consciousness. And even the word, it is said in Shastras that even if you're not able to chant the words, for example, some of them have names where the beginning of the name could be Ra and the last name could be Ma. So even if you're chanting, by unknowingly, if you're chanting with some words skipped, if you're chanting that name like Ra Mara, something like that, even if you're saying like that, there is a lot of benefit for people. In their sins gets washed away, is what Krishna is saying. And hence what we need to do is, he was not realizing that how all of this happened. And without realizing his name, he was able to autocorrect all of this, and he was very happy that he was able to do all of this. And finally he was sitting, because of this entire chanting, he was able to get relief from all of his sins. And finally he got relief from all of his sins, and he woke up from the ant hill. And as soon as he woke up from the ant hill, because there was a lot of ants around all of him, his name came up as Valmiki. And later, I think all of you might know about how he wrote. He went on to write the um, greatest scripture Ramayana, where he was actually he once went into one of the near the lake where he saw two croncha birds, and both the croncha birds. One of the concha birds was actually hurt by a hunter. Looking at this, he was in deep pain. And when he was in deep pain, because he was in shoka, he got the shloka from him. And when and that's why he's called the first poet ever. And he started writing the first shloka. And he took up writing Ramayana after this entire episode of seeing the Krancha bird in pain with the instruction of Narada Muni. And that's how we see that how name can have so much of a change into our hearts. It can definitely make a difference, where a person like Ratnakara could revive his memory with the Lord, and he could write Ramayana.
Yeah, while you might wonder as to what is a reference of this particular story in the topic what we are talking about, the Akshara Brahma Yoga, I forgot about to mention what is Akshara. Akshara, it's called Akshara and Akshara. One is destructible and one is indestructible. What is indestructible? Our soul. We are a living entity and our soul is indestructible, and that's how we are called as a Brahma, right? And we are also called as Brahma and the Brahman as well. The soul is called in that way. So that's where we are Akshara Brahman, where we are trying to connect to the Lord. So why we gave this particular story here in reference? Because he always did something called as Abhyasa Yogena, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena, Smara, always Mam Anusmara, Abhyasa, Anusmara, Abhyasa. These are the two terms for this entire particular chapter as a theme as such. Okay, moving on. That's what we learned just now. How to attain the Lord. Anusmara. One must always remember Krishna. Remember, we said right from day two, we established this. Always think of Krishna, never forget Krishna. Always think of Krishna, never forget Krishna. Abhyasa, by simply fixing the mind on Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. Now, how to cultivate this? Arjuna is again asking, how do we cultivate this? Right, how to cultivate this is what we're going to see here. Kavim Puranam Anusashitaram Anur Anuyam Sam Anusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasha Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest. Anor Aniyam, he is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, right? And who's the cause of all causes, who's beyond all material conception. For him, the material conception does not come into picture. Who is inconceivable. What is inconceivable? Which is beyond our senses, beyond our time or anything to understand him. And who is always a person. He is a person who is a two-handed form, Shyamashundara form, right? And Paramatma is the four-handed form. He is luminous like the sun because of his effulgence. That's how the Brahman effulgence, and there are Mayavadis or whoever they think that the Brahman effulgence is the ultimate, and they would want to merge within the Lord. They think that that's what's called as merging. He is luminous like the sun, and he's a transcendental beyond his material, beyond this material nature. For he does not have a material body. Only we living entities, because we are in this material world, we have a material body. Otherwise, if we are in the spiritual world, we'll never have a material body. That is what. So all these aspects are mentioned here. Why? We learned bits and pieces on the day 4, the transcendental knowledge. We learned it yesterday about in depth about how is a taste of the water and so on and so forth, so that we understand more and more about him. We understand the Bhagwan aspect about him. So while we go on till the 18 chapters, we will see how we will be able to understand the sweetness and the greatest and the purest of the, by doing purest of the bhakti, we will be able to understand him much way beyond further. Moving on, We already know the four stages of yoga, right? The Jnana Yoga, the Karma Yoga, right? And the Ashtanga Yoga. What happens in the Karma Yoga? If you do Karma Yoga, in the Karma Yoga, if you do Bhakti, you will get fruitive desires, right? And if at all you try to do much more Bhakti, maybe you might go to the higher planets. But what happens after that? You will fall down. What happens in the Jnana Yoga? Jnana Yoga, yes, in a short time after knowing him, you will again go to the very higher planets, but again you will fall down. What happens in the Ashtanga Yoga? They will try to connect with their Paramatma within. Again, they will try to get into the Brahman stage, right? Again, there are chances of falling down. Why? Because in the effulgence, there is nothing, there is no activity to do at all. Okay, and that is how it is. But however, we'll see this is one of the favorite verses of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti purchases Krishna, right? Our bhakti, with our bhakti we can purchase Krishna because he reciprocates. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityasaha tasyaham susulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. For one who always remembers me, how does he remember? Without any deviation. I'm easy to obtain, O Arjuna, because of his constant engagement in devotional service to me, right? How does he? There are three aspects here which is very important. Ananya bhakti, right? Without deviation, without anything added, unalloyed, just like the way we have gold and copper which is mixed, which becomes a gold. It's without any alteration. He doesn't have any fruitive desires no matter what, right? In day 4, one of the Matajis was asking, how do we take care of the miseries? God will, for them, the miseries doesn't come into picture at all, right? They will not, whatever they think that these miseries are because God is trying to test me no matter what. And they will constantly go in praying the Lord. They will do whatever activities they do, they're keeping Krishna in the center, they're going to do. Sulabha. Why is it Sulabha? Become very easy to obtain. It's very easy to obtain because Krishna reciprocates, right? That's exactly why the ABCD principle is very, very important. And how is it? Satatam, continuously, continuously, how much ever we can think of him. In this particular yuga, in this age also, you might think, oh Prabhu, we are karmis, we are into karma kandas, we are doing activities, we are doing our prescribed duties, and we are following something called as nishkama karma yoga. How do we continuously think of him? No matter what, whatever prescribed activity you're doing. Today morning you're waking up and going to office. Oh Lord, I'm going to office to earn my living so that whatever I earn and I'll come back and give it to you. Whatever activity I'm doing, this project I'm doing, I don't know how this would benefit me. Please help me if there is any mistake in my activity. Whatever activity you're doing, I'm cooking food, I'm cooking for you. So anything and everything that, just include him, include the aspect of Lord Krishna. While it might sound silly, but that is exactly how you can always think of the Lord. Nitya, eternal, without any deviation. Okay, moving on. Why is it important? Why? The main reason is because we are this particular material world, which we already discussed or we gave clues right from beginning. It's a place of misery, right? What are the three miseries? We are combined with the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries is Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, and Adhyatma. These are the threefold miseries. One, with the miseries that I have with my own body, because we go through janma mrityu jara vyadi. I'm very prone to diseases because of a mosquito bite or anything, right? Then we have something called as, if there are disturbances within the environment due to storms or earthquakes and so on and so forth. Then the last one is about the disturbances that are given by the Lord. So all these miseries. Apart from that, we are controlled by the three modes of material nature: the goodness, the passion, and the ignorance. Don't also be in the trap. Right now, our practice should be at least to come to the stage of goodness. At least you, with this sessions, you will be able to identify as to what particular mode you are into. Definitely, in another 2 sessions, you will identify in what mode you are into. Always, are you into a mode of ignorance, or are you into a mode of passion, or are you into a mode of goodness? If you are into a mode of ignorance or a passion, please try to balance in such a way so that at least you reach to the mode of goodness. Once you reach to the mode of goodness, then we can elevate automatically to the mode of pure goodness, which is Shuddha Sattva, which is required. So this particular verse, which says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka, from the Satya Loka or the Brahma Loka to everyone, right? Bhuvana Loka, Punaravartino Arjuna, Mamupetyatu Kaunteya, Punarjanmana Vidyate. What does it mean? From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala Loka, till the all the 14 lokas, whatever we have, till that, once you come out of this particular misery and come to the spiritual world, there is no way that you will be able to fall down, right? But that is exactly how we have to utilize our free will, right? That is exactly why we should not misuse our free will. With our free will, we should always connect to the Lord. Why? What is a constitution position? We read that in the first slide itself, where he asked a question. Our constitutional position is always to serve the Lord. Living entity soul is to serve the Lord. Moving further, the 28th verse, that's where it says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Let me read that once again for people who had asked all these questions. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, because we are already into scriptures and reading the Vedas. This is not what we are saying, it's what the Lord Krishna has stated. Performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional services, he attains all these. Yeah, all these things which we are thinking time and again, trust me, these are really insignificant. It's really insignificant, I would say, right? But what is the most important? Giving spiritual knowledge to everyone. Imagine if we had the same spiritual knowledge from our birth. If we give the spiritual knowledge to our kids, the society will be literally different. The all the isms of today's the world that are there wouldn't even have come into picture at all. The only ism that would have been there is spiritualism. As simple as that, right? Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode, right? So God himself is saying all these things here. Okay, so this is about the Goloka chart, which we thought we will talk about the Goloka chart. Let me try to, yeah, I'll try to open the Goloka chart here. Let me stop sharing and quickly open the Goloka chart. Sorry, it was my bad. I was not ready. I did not download it on this particular computer, or else I would have just give me a moment while I'm downloading this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
No, do you have that on your screen? Can you just post it? Or Darsh, can you please share the Goloka chat with me? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to take a good print because there are some prints that are there in the internet and I do not want them because they are of not that great a quality. Yeah, send it to samba.pradhan. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Have you sent? Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Yes, I have that now. I'm going to post it, and we will share this.
It's already shared on the group.
Oh, it's already shared on the group. Okay. Okay, now can anyone confirm if we are able to see the chart, the Goloka chart? Are we able to? Can you see the chart, Smon? Now are we able to see the chart? Are we able to?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, so what we are seeing right now is this is the Goloka chart, right? The entire we see here, well, maybe you're not able to see. This is the Goloka Vrindavan. The topmost is the Goloka Vrindavan, right? Then we have something called as the Mahesh Dham, right? Sorry, then we have the Hari Dham, then we have the Mahesh Dham, okay, and then we have the Devi Dham. Now what am I talking about? Devi Dham is nothing but the, can anyone guess? This is the material world, which we are in the material world, which is being taken care by Mahamaya or the Devi, right? Who's Durga Devi, who takes care. Then we have the Mahesh Dham, which is Lord Shiva or the Sambhu. And then we have the Hari Dham. This is the Vaikuntha, right? And then we have the Goloka Vrindavan, whatever we see here, the Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, let me try to, okay, let me unmute you people. Yes, is it visible? Can anyone say, is it clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Is it?
Yes. So this is Radharani. Radharani we have in the Golok Vrindavan. Then we have the Ashtashakhi here, where Lalita, Vishakha, so on and so forth. Right. If I just zoom out a bit, then we have. If you see, remember we spoke about the expansions of the Lord, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Shankarshana, and Pradyumna. Right. We all have here. These are the expansions of the Lord. And then there also in remember in oh you won't understand if we talk in chapter 15th you will see the banyan tree where we will see that we are the perverted reflection. Now what do I mean by perverted reflection? If you see here, I don't want to get into that topic because again you'll start asking questions. At this point of time it's not required. There also we have in the Goloka Vrindavan, also Vrindavan Dham, we have something called as Mathura, Jagannath Puri, Dwaraka, because it's always eternal, right? And this is a Shankarshana. Again from Shankarshana, again there is next Chaturvyuha expansion. So here we have all the Vedas, and then we get into the lower spiritual, which is spiritual world, and this is the gate we have Ayodhya as well. Yeah, all the leelas, all the pastimes, everything, every day, every time, every moment, all the leelas are happening. In, if we are wondering where is it happening, it's happening everywhere. In this universe, any universe, many universe, it's happening totally. So then I'll move down, right? This is the Vaikuntha planet, right? Again, we have all the information of the Vaikuntha planet. Here we have with 4 hands, right? These are 4 hands. Chaturbhuja, all Vishnus with 4 hands. We have their names: Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and all that. We have all their names written here. And then we move down further. This is the effulgence of the Lord which we were talking about. Let me zoom a bit. Are you able to see the Brahmajyoti?
Ji Prabhuji.
Okay, which is a Brahmajyoti or the Sadashivaloka. Half of Sadashivaloka has a light, the other doesn't have. Mahakala Dham, that's what it's called as. And this is the Karana Ocean, or the Viraja River is also called as a Viraja River or the Karana Ocean. And this is where Karanodakshai Vishnu, which we, sorry?
Here is where the
Yeah.
Material realm starts.
The material realm starts from here itself, if you see. So this is where Karanodakshai Vishnu, he glances at the Devi, and then via the agency of Shambhu, the material world is come into pictures. You see all these pores, these are all the andas from the sweat glands, of the pore, these are all the andas. So he's lying at the Karana ocean. He's the Karanodakshai Vishnu or the Mahavishnu, which we were talking. He's the Paramatma of the entire Brahmandas or all the universes. So what happens first from the Shwa Amsha of Krishna, Balramji comes into picture. And then from the Balramji, then the Purusha avatars come into picture. Right? These are the 3 Purusha avatars which we saw, which is a Karanodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and the Shirodakshai Vishnu. Then I will go down a bit. Okay, so this is where the Mahat Tattva we were talking about. Now, what is Mahat Tattva? The entire constituents of all the matter and the living entity. Now, what state are they at into? Just assume that now the annihilation happened. At what stage they will be? They will be in an inactive state. And then once the Lord glances and when the time factor is injected into the Mahat Tattva, that is where everything starts manifesting. That's the reason when you see in entire Bhagavad Gita and in Bhagavatam, you will see 2 terms: manifested, unmanifested, manifested, unmanifested. Right? When the time factor is injected, then the pradhana comes into picture. Okay. If you see here, look at our universe and look at the layers which we are or made, our bodies made: earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, and the Mahat Tattva. And then this is where we come into picture. We are in the material world, or the so-called, where we spoke about Devi Dham. Right? So what happens? Garbhodakshai Vishnu, this is what we learned yesterday also. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is sitting on the Garbha with the Anantasesha on his hoods. And then from his Pankaja Nabhi, that is where Brahmaji comes into picture. There you go, Lord Brahma. And these are the 14 planetary systems which we were talking about. Satyaloka or the Brahmaloka, the abode of Lord Brahma. Tapaloka, the abode of the 4 Kumaras or the Gyanis, who were just roaming, and finally they smelled the smell of tulsi from the lotus feet of the Lord. That's again a pastime that's there. Then we have the Janaloka for all the Prajapatis who came into picture. From Brahmaji, the Prajapatis were born, the Manus were born, the Prajapatis were born, right? And then the Maharloka, the abode of Bhrigumuni and the Prajapatis again. Then the Swarloka, Bhur Bhuva Swara, right? The abode of the demigods. Now you know where the demigods stay. And then we have the Bhuvarloka, which is the abode of the ghostly planets. And this was the Dhruvaloka, where our Dhruva Maharaj, where he wanted a separate loka because he wanted his fruitive desires as well. And this is where the Shirodakshai Vishnu is within inside the material planet. Why? Because he's within every living entity and every atom and a particle he is. And then below the earth, we have the lower planetary systems, which is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and the Patala. This is where we have. So then below that, we have the Narakloka, the 28 hells, which are explained in the Bhagavatam. So this is all about our, what we call the Goloka chart, which we can talk about. And the only way gateway. Our gateway to the spiritual world is all about. Let's all chant together with loud. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Complete surrender. Okay, I will stop this here and then we'll go back to our presentation.
Prabhuji, would you be sharing this chart with us over WhatsApp?
Definitely, Mataji. I think it's already shared. It's already shared, Mataji.
Okay, yesterday it was shared, right?
Yes. Was it shared yesterday? Yes, I think it was shared yesterday.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Let me try to open this. We were talking about the slide. Yes. Okay, so this is what we saw, the Goloka chart. Well, that was just a glimpse. This is based on the Brahma Samhita and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We will be able to see all that information, and all this information is there in the scriptures, in the Brahma Samhita. Everything is explained in detail, and that's how it is arrived. And that's exactly why the entire project, His Grace Ambarish Prabhu, the owner of Ford Motors, with his assistants, almost most of half of it, right? His contribution, the Vedic planetarium in Mayapur also coming into picture, which we will be able to understand all the planetary systems, including Mount Sumeru and so on and so forth, which is beautifully explained in Bhagavatam. Right. So moving on, this is what we learned today. The essence of attaining the supreme is Krishna is God, and he is a person. He has a Shyama Sundara form, right? He's a Shyama Sundara form, and we should meditate on that form. And this is what we have seen or we have learned. And this is clearly mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam Brahma Samhita, and all these Mukundamala references are clearly given. That is, with this, we want to talk about the Sudama pastime.
Yeah,
How do you want to share?
So here we have a very nice story about Sudama. And what happened is when they were little, both of them, they studied in the same ashrama with
Sudama and Lord Krishna, yeah, yes. Sandipani Muni.
Yes, Lord Krishna and also Sudama studied in the same ashrama as, with Sandipani Muni. And here we see Lord Krishna and also Balram listening to Sandipani Muni very carefully. So one day, Sandipani Muni asked a question to Sudama that about something, and Sudama didn't know the answer, so he didn't answer. And when the same question was asked to Lord Krishna also, because his friend didn't answer, even Lord Sudama didn't want, even Krishna didn't want to answer the question. So both of them, because they didn't answer, Sandipani Muni told them to bring the logs, that is the wood logs from the jungle. Now both of them went to the jungle. While going, the mother, that is Guru Mata, gave them a roll of chickpeas. Sorry, chickpeas. Roll of chickpeas. Yes. So they gave him. She gave them roll of chickpeas, which was held by Sudama, and there was a big storm, and also it started raining. So if you see the third picture, they started. It was too breezy. So both Sudama and also Krishna climbed up this tree and they
took
sat
shelter
down.
on a tree. Yeah.
Yes, and when they were sitting on the tree, Krishna went a bit ahead on the top, and then Sudama was sitting. And because he was also feeling very hungry due to the storm, he opened the roll and he completed the entire chickpeas.
Sudama completed the entire
completed
chickpeas.
the entire chickpeas. Finally, he did not give anything to Krishna, and this is why when Sudama grows up, he was actually very poor. So, what do we understand by this? That when we are eating food or whenever we are, whenever we are having something, we should always give to the Lord, because this complete creation, this entire thing that is given by the Lord is not ours. It belongs to Krishna. We have been renting all of this from Krishna. So when we are giving it back, we give it completely intact. We don't cause any harm to whatever is given to us. And hence, but however, whatever happened, Sudama was always a great devotee of the Lord. Later on, when he came to meet him, you might have heard the pastime that, when he came to meet him, he washed his feet, and also he washed his blessed feet, and also he treated him so nicely. And as soon as he ate a spoon, that is one morsel of chipped
The
rice,
broken rice, yeah.
immediately his family was rich. And Rukmini Devi tells him not to eat another one, because even Rukmini Devi might have to be working as a maid servant. So Lord is so merciful that we can purchase him easily with his love. He gets purchased with his love so easily. So this is what we need to understand, that even though we are learning so much, if at all, after learning the entire Bhagavad Gita also, if we are not able to get that love for Krishna, it's of no use. We are just going to increase our knowledge, and but then if we are not able to increase our devotion towards Krishna,
And
it's
apply in
not
our
going to.
day-to-day life.
Yes, application of that you're not trying to develop that love, whatever it is, however whichever form it is, if you're able to develop that love, that is what is the ultimate thing. It's not about gaining knowledge and then learning more about Shastra. It's also about application in our daily life as to how we can please Krishna in our daily lives. Of course, he is greatest. There is no doubts about that. But also, we need to know how sweet he is, that we can get purchased, but that he can be purchased so easily. This is the most sweetest part.
Yeah, this was the essence of this particular why we have added these pictures in this particular slide. With this, once again, I request, let's chant loud and clear. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, we are done with this particular chapter here. So with your permission, I'm just going to stop the screen share. And if there are any questions, we'll get into the question answer sessions. For people who have joined today, in case you're wondering, what is this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the Maha Mantra, right? Why Hare and why Krishna? Why just not Krishna, 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 Krishna? Just like the way we have Lakshmi Narayana, it's the pleasure potency. Those are the energies of the Lord. The pleasure potency of the Lord is sweetest, the Radha Rani. So Hare is Radha himself. So we are saying Radha Krishna, right? That's how. If you go to North India, everyone will say Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, they'll call. So that's the pleasure potency. And what is a Hare Rama, Hare Rama? Again, it is like Sita Ram, Sita Ram. So that is why it is. That's the reason we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We already discussed about that. It's there. The definition is mentioned in our first slides as well. Okay. With this, I think we are done with the session. If there are any questions, we will take, or else